everyone in the industry on both sides, buy side and sell side, cares about ad performance for that exact reason, right? The better it is for a publisher, the more revenue they will generate, the better it is for advertisers, the better results and performance they will achieve at the end of their funnel, whatever it is that they're looking to do. Yeah. Measurement is an ally, therefore, for both of them, because it can help both sides figure out what works and what doesn't work, and help both sides optimize either that choice of media that you're buying or the campaigns that you're putting on your site.
Hello everyone and welcome back to Identity Architects, the InfoSum podcast that spotlights the leaders in the media industry shaping the future of advertising. I'm Ben Cicchetti, and this week I had the opportunity to sit down with Anya Libova, Director of Publisher Development at DoubleVerify. We talked about brand suitability, measurement, networking, mentorship, and much, much more. Before we jump into that conversation, this is a reminder to hit that subscribe button to be alerted when new episodes of Identity Architects are available. But without any further delay, here's my chat with Anya. This week, I am thrilled to be joined by not only DoubleVerify's Director of Publisher Development, but The Wire's reigning AdTech rising star, Anya Libova. Anya, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Ben. I'm really pleased to be here.
No, I'm super excited to get to know you a little bit better and to dig into DoubleVerify and other things that are going on. But for anyone who doesn't know you, can you just give us a quick introduction to yourself and to DoubleVerify?
Sure. So I am currently a sales director at DoubleVerify, specifically working on the supply side of the business. So I work with publishers, media owners, retailers, game developers, and pretty much anyone that has the ads that they sell to advertisers. I'm also a co-founder of AdTech Connect, which is a great initiative that was started about 6 months ago, aimed to create a safe and inclusive networking opportunities for people that are just starting out in the industry and may not know anyone just yet. So that's sort of main job, and then the slightly unofficial second job that I have. But otherwise, I live in London. I've been in London for 11 years, but I wasn't born there. And in my free time, I love watching too much reality TV and borrowing other people's dogs with Borrow My Doggy.
I love that. That's awesome. And I'm super interested to get into AdTech Connect. I think it's an awesome initiative and definitely dig into DoubleVerify a little bit more. But we'll start the way we always do, which is to get to know you a little bit better. Starting with, what is your earliest memory of advertising?
Hard question. I think because also I obviously wasn't born in the UK. So when I was growing up, I was exposed to extremely different kinds of advertising to perhaps what you remember. So for me, the one that really stood out was the Coca-Cola truck, flying into the sky with a Santa, and they translated that little music tune that the ad had into Russian. So it was a very just different ad that just appeared, and it was so unusual. And I feel like that's the one I remember the most because it was so different to anything I've seen before.
Yeah. I love that. It's actually my earliest memory of advertising as well. And in our household,
they really killed it. They really killed it.
It wasn't Christmas in our household until that advert had been on TV. So I can totally appreciate that. If you take yourself back to those days, seeing that commercial for the first time, what did you want to be when you were younger?
I feel like it's quite embarrassing because I used to really want to be in fashion. Which is, I don't know, I grew up in the 90s. There was this boom of, fashion being introduced and personal style being different between each other, and everyone was sort of finding their groove. And I really liked it. So I wanted to work in fashion. I interned at a fashion designer, small fashion designer, and helped them over the summer. I also worked for a few fashion companies and sort of the business side of things. And the pinnacle of that was a PR internship at Inditex, so the parent company that owns Zara and Massimo Dutti and a bunch of other brands, which made me realize I absolutely do not want to work in fashion anymore. So I'm very pleased that I have experienced that the culture and the vibes were not it. So I kind of moved on from that. But this was everything I thought about when I was little. I made my own clothes and sold my old bags and things like that. So I was really into it.
That's amazing. I love that. I'm seeing all the kind of Devil Wears Prada vibes going on right
now. Exactly. I was extremely obsessed with Devil Wears Prada. I remember watching it and being like, oh my God, this is my dream. Absolutely not. So But I've done it a little bit. I took my toes, and then I realized that that's not for me.
Yeah, you've got to experience these things sometimes to know whether it's a good fit or not. So from that, then, what was your first job in either advertising or marketing or media?
Yes. My first job were kind of odd jobs there and there when I was a teenager, where I helped a few small businesses in the area that I was living in with their social media, like Instagram and Facebook and a few of the local platforms that existed where I was living were just getting started, and people that were slightly older than me at the time just simply did not understand the concept of it whatsoever. So they thought it would be great to just get a teenage girl to sort of support them with that. I made a little bit of money on the side, which was really helpful. But social media marketing basically was the first advertising related job, but it
Yeah.
wasn't like a full time employment in any way. It was just me making some extra pocket money.
Yeah, I like that. What do you think it was about the advertising industry that kind of drew you in? And I guess, what keeps you in it to this very day?
Mm. Well, I don't know if I don't think you might not know the background, but I ended up in advertising, but by an accident. I didn't start my like proper grown-up career in the industry. I joined a large consulting company, Accenture, when I graduated university, mostly because I wasn't sure exactly what I wanted to do. And doing a very generalist consulting career allows you to kind of try a bunch of different things. At Accenture, however, my specialty and expertise very quickly became the use of data in marketing. So I would work on helping our clients make sure that the data that they gather from their point of sale, from their loyalty schemes, from their users, and basically all the data that they have is then used for marketing purposes in the most effective way. So I was kind of in this space while I was at consulting, but I didn't know anything about ad tech specifically. And then I ended up in the industry by very happy accident, and fell in love. It might sound really cheesy, but I genuinely think the ad tech industry is the best one there is. I often, compare it to my other friends that work in other industries, and I just feel like we as a group are very progressive. People are great. The kind of initiatives that are being run by multiple players in the space are nothing like I've seen before. The community is so strong. There is such a close-knit relationship between people. And that's what sort of made me fall in love with the industry, but also makes me want to stay in because I think it's extremely unique. And we've got it really good.
Yeah, I agree. I love this industry, especially the people. I think we're such a people-driven industry. And the more I've got into the industry, I didn't, my career didn't start in media and advertising. I started in fintech, transitioned into media and
Mm.
advertising. And the more I've become ingrained in it, the more I've realized just how people-driven it is and how incredible all the people are. And that career journey from consultancy into the industry. It's very similar to our CEO's journey. She started
Oh,
in
really?
Deloitte and then transitioned into the media and advertising industry. So it sounds like it's a really good path from what I can gather anyway.
I mean, I would recommend it to everybody. Like a lot of my clients and partners at work, they would have sort of children that are in their late teenage years choosing what to do right now. And I kind of recommend them try consulting because they can try marketing and finance and strategy and organizational change and behavioral sort of consulting for talent organizations. They can try it in direct to consumer businesses or B2B companies in oil and gas or in fashion or in tech. Really, you can try everything and then find the niche that you like the most, and then either completely specialize in it in the consulting firm that you're in, or just transition your career into that industry altogether. So, yeah, big fan. Deloitte, Accenture, incredible businesses.
Yeah, I agree. And maybe you just answered this, but what advice would you give then to someone who's just starting in their career, specifically in the media and advertising industry?
Mm. I mean, if we're talking specifically media and advertising, I think that the key, absolute key, is to not be completely focused on just your role in just your company, in just the niche of the industry you work in. I see that happen a few too often for my liking. I think that all the people that are just joining should be curious and should be asking questions. If you are an account manager that works in a data company, then you should be interested in how the sales process in the same company works. If you have done all of that and you know your world of data and IDs, then maybe you should also consider learning a little bit more about brand safety or measurement or attention or any other little niche that exists. Same for formats and environments, right? If you are a specialist of the open web, then also look into some of the proprietary platforms like retail media or CTV or social platforms, just so that you know the whole spectrum of the industry at least a little bit, right? There is, I would say, definitely a problem of the industry making everything sound like 10 times more complicated than it is for no reason. And it's okay to not know everything, but I would very much encourage sort of the next generation to just put themselves out there, learn a little bit, and then try different things, network. One of the reasons we started AdTech Connect is basically to allow for those situations to happen.
Yeah, I think that's great advice, especially this idea of not getting stuck in your own bubble, because I think if you're in your own bubble, you can't necessarily always think outside the box. It can kind of stifle innovation. Your ability to see what else is going on, what other companies, what other media, what other industries are doing can help you then bring those ideas into your world.
Sure. And our industry specifically, it's changing every day. Like every day there's a new company that becomes this mega buzz, a new format or a new technology is introduced. So it is really important to keep up to date, because otherwise, if you don't, it moves on so quickly, you're just going to be stuck in the past rather than moving forward with the industry moving forward.
Yeah, I agree. A two-part question. What keeps you awake at night? And then what gets you up and motivated in the morning?
I mean, I can't lie, I sleep pretty well. Which may not be the answer you're looking for, but I mean, I think that we're working in advertising. We've got it pretty well. You know, our normal day is someone's dream day. So I sleep pretty well. But what gets me up in the morning is just the fact that I love my job and I love what we do. You know, back to when we talked about what makes AdTech as an industry so special. I love it. Like, I don't mind waking up to go to work, even on a Monday. I enjoy what I do. I love people I work with. I love that we have incredible events and we get together so often. There's a lot of collaboration. So just the fact that I have fun when I go to work, and I love the people I get to spend time with when I'm there is what makes me get up in the morning.
Yeah, I love that. And I think what's interesting, going back to something you said in your previous answer, actually, it's obviously a very quick changing industry. It's a very evolving industry, and it can be very confusing. So, how would you describe what you do within media and advertising to a 10-year-old?
Do we assume that 10-year-olds these days do understand the notion of advertising?
I would hope so.
I
I'd
think
hope so, or
so.
at least they've seen it, right? They've been
Yeah.
exposed to it.
Well, I try to explain what I do to my cousin, who's not 10, but not far from it. Um, and I explained it to him when we were in Piccadilly Circus, and there was loads of
Mm.
ads around, right? And I said, these ads are outside, but they're of different companies that are trying to sell something to the audience. And in this specific environment, there's millions of people that walk past every day. So these ads aren't necessarily focused on just me or just you. They are for everybody that is in London and Piccadilly Circus. And what I do specifically in industry, I work with companies that have advertising space, billboards, but online in the internet rather than on Piccadilly Circus. And I help them make sure that the adverts are right for the environment that they are in. They're correct for the people that are looking at them, and they are delivered in the right way. They never break. They always show as they are meant to be shown, and they achieve the goals of the advertiser behind those. Is that too hard for a 10-year
No,
old?
I think that's brilliant. I think that works really, really well. And I will have to steal that if I ever have to explain it to one of my nephews or nieces. The final of our quickfire questions, and a personal favorite of mine, because it always gives me this little bit of a unique insight into the personalities that I have on the podcast. If there was a song that was a soundtrack to your life, what would it be?
I think it would be one of the Fred Again songs because I love him so much. Like he makes me feel things when I listen to his
Mm.
music. One of my favorites is the Billy song, "The Loving Arms Around You," and it's just emphasizes how it's important to have people that love you and support you and bring you up when you're down, and that life is not a straight line. It will always go up and down, and it's just important to remember that when you're down, there's going to be an up, and it's going to be people around you that help you and take you back up on that life high. So Billy, or Loving Arms by Fred again.
I love that. Yeah, I think that's a great song, and we will add it. We have a playlist on Spotify where we add everyone's choices. So we will add that to the playlist so that everyone can enjoy it.
I mean, I've seen him live a few times, and it's just he makes me feel things. So I love him.
Okay, definitely. I might have to have a look for that at a live concert soon then, definitely. We'll move on to some of the more topic-related questions. We'll dig in a little bit deeper on DoubleVerify as well. One of the things I love about DoubleVerify is the mission statement, which is to make the digital advertising ecosystem stronger, safer, and more secure. Obviously, one of the key aspects of that is brand safety, which is crucial for publishers as they monetize their audience and build trust with advertisers. What are some of the crucial best practices for delivering brand safety for advertisers?
Mm-hmm. Well, I would start with the fact that it's very, very important to understand that DoubleVerify technology helps both publishers and advertisers and everyone in between. So it's there for everybody to make use of, to analyze the performance and to align on brand safety. However, it's a lot more often all about brand suitability rather than brand safety. Mm-hmm. And that is because what is suitable for one advertiser would be completely unsuitable for another, depending on what line of products they do or who is their target audience. So DoubleVerify sits between buyers and sellers and connects the dots between the two. We don't make any suggestions to advertisers as to what is suitable for them, because that is so specific to their brand. So it's the advertiser that decides that. And then our technology helps them make sure that that is delivered in line. All of the advertising campaigns are delivered in line with those requirements. So first thing first, a lot more about brand suitability versus brand safety specifically. As a publisher, though, I think there are maybe three primary ways that I would encourage them to work with advertisers when it comes to setting up a campaign and making sure that there is an alignment between the two. So first, I always advise my clients and partners to understand what are those brand suitability requirements for the specific campaign and specific advertiser that they're working with. And then also asking that advertiser some questions in regards to how they're using the media quality tools available to them. Are they using the most modern tools out there? Or are they still relying on some of the more outdated technologies? If there is that open dialogue between the two parties, then the effectiveness of the campaign delivery will be there, versus when you just kind of blindly try and deliver. The second point, advice or tip is that publishers absolutely can get the reports from advertisers on how their campaign performed, whether it is about brand suitability, viewability, attention, or fraud. All of these metrics is something that publishers can get from the advertisers they're working with. In DoubleVerify's case specifically, DV provides publishers with completely free access to a platform called Pinnacle, which is our advertiser-facing platform. And that is where they can see pretty much the same as the advertiser sees when they analyze the campaign performance, and therefore can be proactive in talking about what has happened with a specific campaign. I would also, perhaps the last tip, is I would advise publishers to advise advertisers on what would be the best way of running campaigns on their property, right? Because each publisher is different from another, just like each advertiser brand suitability requirement is different from another. So I would push publishers to make sure that they're on the inclusion list of the partners that they work with, making sure that there are no outdated block lists being utilized, because it does happen often that advertisers can unintentionally limit themselves with overly restrictive brand suitability settings, and it is responsibilities of both parties to work together and collaborate to make sure that that is done in an effective way, and campaigns actually do what they're meant to do for the advertiser. We And then here, two more points to this, I guess, is I do a lot of that work with publishers myself. So I kind of always, I'm open and I always invite publishers to just reach out if they have questions. If they're not sure how the technology works, I'm there to help. And we at DoubleVerify as a team are there to help. And we also have what we call DoubleVerify Transparency Center, which is a set of very educational blog posts and webinars and trainings, just to make sure that everyone is on the same page about exactly how the technology works for all of the metrics that we analyze and report on.
Yeah, that's super interesting. And I love the transparency element of it, and the fact that, transparency is just going to become more and more important. And hopefully more and more publishers are now delivering on those kind of tips that you've just gone through. What's the next stage on that? How can brands go beyond the basics to proactively meet advertisers' expectations when it comes to brand suitability?
Well, here, first, let's zoom out a bit from the brand suitability, advertisers, publishers, and generally talk about the business relationships. When you have a buyer and a seller, if you want to be an effective partner to your client, you need to be in their shoes. You need to understand what matters to them. What do they care about? What would their boss be asking them about the performance of the campaign? And then you need to speak their language. So I always encourage publishers to get access to this data set via Pinnacle from their advertisers and take this data points and these metrics for themselves and proactively use them in sales efforts, in their pitch decks, in their campaign wrap-up reports, so that their buyers, their advertisers can see that they are thinking about the same thing that they are thinking. We're all on the same page. They can then really be partners rather than just a transactional relationship. Here's the money for the campaign, do it. That also will help make sure that this relationship with an advertiser is ongoing. Because if you can use data to support the results of your campaign, bring this into their wrap-up and speak their language. So say that this specific campaign had this percentage of brand suitability incident, which is lower than an average. All of this data is available out there. So I encourage publishers to use this data and use the same language, the same definitions, and the same method that the advertiser does. That is a somewhat manual, but absolutely doable approach. Having said that, there are obviously, of course, also more sophisticated technologies out there that could help publishers to align with those requirements automatically, where campaign delivery will be completely automated on a pre-bid basis. On all of these data points will be put into the system before the impression is even served, so that the advertiser just automatically gets exactly what they want. So there are definitely steps and layers to what you can do, and there's a lot you can do by yourself and manually, and then there are also tools that publishers can utilize if they want.
Yeah, I think what's interesting is and what I loved about your response was it's that closer collaboration between the brands and the publishers, right? Yes, they may have slightly different goals in what they're trying to achieve, but ultimately what they're trying to do is serve the right ad to the right person at the right time. So from a brand perspective, they're going to reach the right person and hopefully, turn that into a sale or whatever their brand goal may be. And for the publisher, that is not an intrusive experience on their site or their media. So I think that closer collaboration is incredibly important. And that's why I think we're hearing more and more about collaboration. I was at events at the end of December and heard multiple conversations about collaboration. And then the other topic that came up a lot is the gift that keeps on giving within our industry, which is measurement. And obviously we're seeing growing complexity, growing fragmentation of the digital landscape. From your perspective, how is measurement evolving? And then what role is DoubleVerify playing in helping advertisers and publishers adapt to the changing landscape?
You just said something, which was that both parties ultimately want the same thing, maybe slightly in a different way, right? Advertisers want to make sure that their ads are as effective as possible. Publishers want to make sure that their experience is as clean as possible. But they also need to monetize so that they have the resources to pay for the journalism behind it.
Yeah.
Frankly, if we are in the position where the right ad is delivered to the right person at the right time, and it's seen by a real human in the right geo, etc., this would mean that the advertisers would get more valuable inventory that they're ready to pay more for. And if they're ready to pay more for it, then the publishers will benefit from higher revenues. So really, it's in everyone's interest to use the data sets and metrics and KPIs that exist out there. everyone in the industry on both sides, buy side and sell side, cares about ad performance for that exact reason, right? The better it is for a publisher, the more revenue they will generate, the better it is for advertisers, the better results and performance they will achieve at the end of their funnel, whatever it is that they're looking to do.
Yeah.
Measurement is an ally, therefore, for both of them, because it can help both sides figure out what works and what doesn't work, and help both sides optimize either that choice of media that you're buying or the campaigns that you're putting on your site. That is where I would start. DoubleVerify, I think, is a unique position because we don't rely on any third-party cookies. We have always been about metrics that are completely outside of that and are completely privacy friendly and aren't really impacted by any of the changes that were coming in, no longer coming in. But you know, we're not really impacted by cookies at all. Most advertisers and publishers now also care a lot more about privacy-friendly metrics that they can use to understand, is their budget performing well? Are they spending effectively? Do they buy the right platform? So that is why we exist, right? We provide agnostic, independent, comprehensive measurement for our clients so that they can have that full picture of how their media spend is working. The latest evolution, I would say, in these metrics is definitely around attention. That has been a huge buzzword lately. However, attention has been on the market for several years. We launched it several years ago, but it's really been growing on the buy side the last sort of year or so. Media buyers like attention metrics because it provides them with slightly deeper insights than just ad viewability or just click-through rate. So we recently also released an in-depth solution for publishers. So now we have an attention measurement for both sides, and both sides can utilize it and then again use these metrics in their sales efforts, in their campaign wrap-up reports to prove the value that they've delivered for an ad.
Yeah.
That was a long answer.
That was a great answer, though. And it really talks to, you know, obviously there is a lot of complication in the industry. And obviously there's a lot of different ways you can measure effectiveness. I think attention is a super interesting topic. It comes up a lot at events in the last few months, as you said. I think it's been around for a while, but it's in the last few months, it's really started to capture those headlines. And I think that's a good thing. And I think it's a super interesting space to dig into. Clearly, based on all of that, DoubleVerify keeps you very busy. But as you touched on right at the start, that didn't stop you from being one of the founders of AdTech Connect, which is an incredible organization. And I'd love for you to explain what that is in more detail. But what inspired you to start that initiative and how has it grown since its inception, which I think was just this year, right?
Yeah, it's about 7 or 8 months old. So it's still very much a baby initiative, but it's definitely done better than we thought it would by now. The inspiration behind this, for me personally, was the fact that I entered the AdTech industry from a completely unrelated space. I found myself having to build that network and develop relationships and learn about the technology because, like, I kid you not, I did not know anything at all when I joined AdTech in my first job in the industry. I didn't know what programmatic was or how it worked. I didn't understand publishers. That was a completely unknown space for me. So there was a lot that I had to do to bring myself up to speed and learn the technology, but also develop relationships and understand who's who and different companies and the background to all of these developments that we are working on. I myself am super grateful and really owe everything to some of the networks that existed at the time. So I got involved with Bloom early in my AdTech career. I got involved with the Women Programmatic Network pretty much exactly when it was launched, and a couple of other little groups that existed. I think they're all absolutely incredible, and I'm so grateful that I had an opportunity to go to these events and meet all these people. You know, I have mentors that I met at the Bloom event when I just started, and I don't know where I would be without them. However, both Bloom and the Women in Programmatic networks that I just mentioned are for a specific demographic, right? Bloom supports slightly more senior women in the industry. The Women in Programmatic is slightly broader, but it's still mostly focused on women. even though the events are actually open for all, and I would encourage allies to attend them as well. Another piece that was my inspiration as well is, we talked about how the industry is so incredibly relationship driven, which is a great thing because it allows you to build those true friendships at work pretty much. But it also can be so daunting and scary if you're completely new to infiltrate these pre-existing groups. Especially if we're talking about people that have been working together for the last 20 years.
Yeah.
It's hard to just insert yourself in there. So me and my 3 co-founders, Rish, Sean, and Jack, met at some point earlier this year. And we kind of all aligned on that notion of what I've just described. The inspiration behind it was slightly different for all the 4 of us, but the notion was all the same. We wanted to create a community where someone that has just started working in the industry would not be scared to show up. They would feel completely comfortable to go. It would be accessible. All of our events are completely free. They are in person in central London. It's easy for people to attend them. They are very welcoming. We avoid using jargon or complicated language, and we focused on different areas. We have a panel of experts come in and talk, and everyone can ask a question, and there's a networking opportunity after that. So that is what AdTech Connect has been for now, so far. We have done 3 events this year and are looking to organize many more.
Yeah, I think it's incredible. I think what you and the team are doing is super important. I have a similar experience to you. I didn't start in AdTech. I came into AdTech when I joined InfoSum. I didn't know what DSP was. I didn't know what an SSP was. I knew none of the jargon. And had a very similar experience. You'd go to these big industry events and, as you say, everyone knows each other. Or it feels like, as an outsider, that everyone already knows each other. I would use the word cliquey, but not in the negative connotation, but everyone's in their groups, right? And just to kind of walk up and infiltrate those groups can be incredibly daunting. And a bit like you, I had experiences of going to events like Advertising, which is an LGBTQ plus group within the advertising industry, and finding that network. And it almost starts that way. You've got to find your people within the community, and then kind of grow from there. And I was very fortunate that I had amazing people that would then, introduce me to other people at events and kind of now feel very comfortable. But that networking is so important to career growth. And I love the focus that you have on networking. But as we've just touched on, networking can be very daunting, especially for introverts. We're not all extroverts. And for some, attending those events can feel just incredibly intimidating. So if there are younger people in the industry or people just starting out in this industry who are listening to this podcast, what advice would you give to someone who sees the value in networking, but struggles to just kind of put themselves out there, other than attend AdTech Connect, clearly?
Well, listen, I myself am an introvert. It might not come across this way, but I am. I've got a younger brother who's even more introverted than I am, and he's actually very early on in his career in AdTech himself. He works with an agency. I just advise him and other people like him to just get rid of the word networking, because that makes it sound so formal and professional. Just let's not call it that. Although it is absolutely networking, but really it's just an event that you get to go to, and it's usually in a pretty cool building, and you get to see the inside of an office of another company, and you get to meet a bunch of people and have a nice drink and some kind of food, right? Like that is just sort of the way I position this. And then I also think that small wins are great, because often people would overthink it and come out of the event and feel like maybe they haven't achieved what they were meant to do. So I like to just have small little goals. You can start with, I will speak with 3 people today. I will get to know where the 3 people that I speak to work. And then you have the little ticks against the little goals, and you leave the event with some sense of accomplishment. So that is what I always tell everybody to do. And just another thing is, some of my friends say, oh, I'm not sure about the networking events because I don't feel comfortable talking about work, trends or new technologies. And again, don't. Just get to know someone. Ask them, what's their name? Where do they work? Where do they live? And what was the best thing they've seen on Netflix the last 3 months? Like, that's what I usually do, because that gives me some recommendations of what to watch next and just makes me get to know people a little bit. Again, small little wins, small little goals, take it step by step. And then every single time, try to meet 2 or 3 people that you've not met before, because then you go to an event again and now you know 6 people that you met before. Next time you will know nine people and so on. It's just like compound interest. You start slow and then it really goes like a snowball.
Yeah, that's such good advice. I really think that will resonate with people. And as you say, setting those kind of small goals, those small incremental goals that you can hit on every time kind of takes that intimidation factor out of it a little bit. Switching gears a little bit, a phrase that I'm really fond of is you can't be what you can't see. So as an LGBTQ plus leader, it was incredibly important for me to be visible in my career for others that might be earlier in their careers. And so from your perspective, what role and why are role models so important? And what has been your experience throughout your career? And then today as a leader, as an award-winning leader, mentoring young professionals?
Yeah, representation matters so much. Seeing someone that you can relate to on some level really makes you believe that something is possible. Right? If you are, and I'm sure that was the case many years ago, if you're a woman and you look at the leadership team of your company and you don't see a single woman in there, then you would just automatically go into, well, that means I can't be one.
Yeah.
Right? Same for LGBT leaders or people of color or any other marginalized group that may not relate to everyone else. So representation is important because that creates that little line of connection that you can relate to someone. And I think that there are also so many invisible things where representation still matters. Social class or neurodiversity or whether you went to university or not. Those things you can't necessarily see just from looking at someone, but it is so important. And if you don't see anyone that didn't go to university in that leadership team, and you are the one that chose not to, then what does that mean to you?
Yeah.
So again, I think that the AdTech industry is unique in this way because all of the topics that we just brought up have been discussed. There are initiatives out there to support any marginalized group, pretty much there is. There are initiatives out there, mentorship schemes, ancestral programs that exist. They're usually completely free because of incredible corporate sponsors that, really talk the walk and walk the talk. So it's there, and that's why I love it so much. I think it's unique, and I just don't know any other industry or haven't heard of any other industry that does quite the same level of support.
Yeah,
Does
I
that
agree.
make sense?
It does. It does. It's really important, that visibility, as you say, because not everything is visible. So that ability to make sure that people are conscious and aware of the diversity that exists within our industry and within our companies, to show those that might feel like they can't achieve it because they kind of have this invisible glass ceiling above them, to show them they can kind of smash through that and achieve their goals.
But another thing very important, though, is to make sure that all of these initiatives have allies supporting them that aren't of that specific representation or don't have that connection to the cause. Because otherwise, it could be very much a closed room where you just kind of talk to a bunch of people that already know what's up about what's going on. So it's very important for women's initiatives to have male allies. Similarly to everything else. So you can see people supporting you even when they possibly can't relate to the experiences that you had in the past.
Yeah, totally agree. We have an employee resource group here at InfoSum for the LGBTQ plus network, and the allies that show up every meeting and contribute or just listen and learn is incredibly important. So I really appreciate that perspective. Look, this has been such an interesting conversation. I really enjoyed getting to know you, but also hearing about all the incredible work that's happening. And obviously that's what this podcast is all about. It's a great privilege of mine that I get to speak to incredible people like you who are pioneering the industry forward, whether it's through data, whether it's through inclusivity, or whatever the main factor might be. So when you look at people you admire within the industry, who would you nominate for me to interview on an upcoming episode of Identity Architects?
Can I give 2 nominations?
Definitely.
And then hopefully you can do both. So I would love for you to have a chat with a woman called Mina Miles, who leads AdOps for Independent. I think them as a publisher do a lot of really cool and unique stuff. I think they really know what they're talking about. And I think that she would be very interesting in terms of, the data architect piece.
Yeah.
And then another woman I thought of is Duri Mehmet. She works at Orion. But I think she recently started a group with a bunch of other people. They co-founded a community for women in trading to specifically push more women into that career and maybe unveil some of the unknowns about this part of the industry. So I think that she would have a really interesting story to tell, how she ended up in trading and how can one join if they want to, which it gives that really interesting pioneer experience in like diversity and inclusion. So Mina and Duri, I'll send you their details, and I hope they won't mind me nominating them.
Definitely. No, we'll definitely reach out to them and try and get them on the podcast in 2025. Anya, thank you so much for being on the podcast. Thank you for obviously looking at all the things that are happening within our industry and talking about what DoubleVerify is doing. But in particular, the work you and the team is doing at AdTech Connect, I think it's just such an important and critical thing that we get right in our industry. We'll include a link to AdTech Connect's pages in the description of this podcast. I'd encourage everyone to check it out. I'd encourage everyone to connect with you on LinkedIn to find out the latest and greatest on what's going on. But yeah, thank you so much for being on the podcast. Thanks again to Anya for being on the podcast. It was great to learn more about DoubleVerify, her work with AdTech Connect, and I particularly loved Anya's advice when it comes to networking, setting those small goals that you can build on. All that leaves for me to do is to remind you to hit that subscribe button to know when the next episode of Identity Architects lands. But until then, thanks for listening.